Hello, and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. Over to my right, your left, depending on which way you're facing the screen, is the real Alex Gibbons. You can catch his content over on Arrowhead Addict. And directly after this podcast, he and Coach have the
Lightning Fast Fantasy Football Podcast, baby.
Fantastic. Alex, how are you doing today?
We're ready. I'm doing good, man. I'm dealing with a little bit of a sickness, but, I'll chalk that up from coming back from Florida into an effing blizzard. So call it a little culture shock, which I did get to meet Cap in person. So that was cool.
I never saw it. Did we get photos?
Oh, yeah.
I never got to see the photos. I know Cap posted the one of he and I. But I never saw that yours get posted.
It's out there. It's on the line.
It's on the line. Awesome.
There we go. We lost. Yeah, we lost, Cap.
We lost one and gained another. Coach, how are you doing today? And I was going to introduce Cap, and he just kind of vanished there for a moment. So, Coach, thank you for joining. I'm glad you were able to make it. You can catch Coach Defense multiple times a week. He posts multiple videos. Also, as we alluded to before, right after this podcast, he and Alex are going to go live with their takes on fantasy football. And obviously your Tuesday shows, your staple show and your channel. Coach, how you doing?
Good. I'm good. I'm doing good. A little under the weather myself. I don't know, the holidays got me or whatever the hell, but something jumped on me. I'm just trying to ward it off. So, if I sound a little raspy, you know why.
Yeah.
Oh, and the Chargers make me sick too, so that's probably part of it. Yeah, they make me sick too. So.
You got Chargeritis.
I do. I got the Chargers influenza.
The Charger strain, obviously.
Yeah, the strain of influenza known as, boatitis.
You got the Chargicron variant.
Boatitis.
Yeah, the Chargicron variant, dude.
There you go. Right.
Captain, how are you doing today?
I'm doing better. Actually, I don't know what, because I was popping in and out. I got a chance to see the real Alex Gibbons in his trip to Florida with that wonderful picture. And I can attest, and I know he's going to hate me for saying this, I can attest why we never see his wife on camera, because she is a vision of loveliness. And all of our eyes would be fixated on her because she's gorgeous. And the best thing about her is she's a wonderful lady. And it was my pleasure to meet them both live and in person. Although I went by him, I didn't see him, but he saw me. He had to come up to me. It's like, hey, dude, it's like he had to come find me at the restaurant because I didn't see him. But which means now there's only one. There's only one left. There's only one left. And I wonder who it could be, who refuses to meet me face to face.
Really?
It would gall him to meet me face to face. I'm not mentioning any names or doing any pointing, but it would be nice. It would be nice to see the whole crew, because I have had the great opportunity to meet Richie Richey, the opportunity to meet Alex, the great opportunity to meet the Mundungus when I was in Denver, which again, there remains only one. Only one left. But again, great time to see everybody. Turkey Day was aight, but and Alex got a chance to see me when I was talking and I wasn't coughing up a lung, so that's pretty much done. But I guess all of the lemon and the honey that I was taking caught up with me, because I took a blood test on Monday, and my A1C, which had been below 7, was now kicked up to 8. which you would think, oh, it's only a 1.2, but apparently that 1.2 is a big hit, according to my doctor. So I got to take another blood test in January. Hopefully it'll be down below 7 where it was. But again, great to see everybody. Thanks everybody for being here. We enjoy having everybody here. I'm going to shut up now because I've obviously spoken too much.
Well, next time I'm in Florida, Cap, I'm gonna make sure I visit you and bring my muddy boots so I can grind them on your couch.
Yeah. Notice he said the next time he's in Florida. The next time, it would probably be the first time he's in Florida that I know, because I don't think he even gets below, the South Carolina Georgia border. That would just be too much.
I have people in my house that don't let me go anywhere without them. So it's one of those things. You have to travel in groups. So you got to bring your posse with you. I do.
Okay.
Gotta bring the posse. The posse don't let me out their sight. So if I'm coming, they're gonna go too. So yeah, that's the hang up.
Bring them all on. Bring them on.
I believe that's called an entourage.
Yeah, a little bit.
Captain, do you really think that he and his family are going to let him go south where it's warmer and not join and not insist that they join him? Come on now. Like the answer to that is no.
Exactly.
Let's be honest. We all, as a collective group here, both us and our audience watching, know that the answer to that is a firm no.
Yeah. But I will say that, and Alex missed it. He got some of the weather. It was rainy. But he missed yesterday. It was in the 40s down here, which is nothing for most of you. I see the look. The 40s. But for us,
that's
anything below
Antarctic
60,
weather. Yeah, that's
anything below 60 is like
that's like the North Pole to y'all.
Exactly. It was in the 30s at some of the areas around here today. So, just like the old song, it's beginning to look a lot like Hanukkah. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, a little bit of a menage there. Christmas and Hanukkah, and to all of our folks, advance happy holidays coming up.
If it's 40 outside, I'm in shorts for sure.
I know.
Crazy, man.
Like for sure. Like 100% guaranteed.
Yeah. I'm with the silent. 40 is a warm winter day, man. Yeah.
That's 40's
that's short and tee. You're like, dang, it's 40 today? It's a scorcher.
That's t-shirt and shorts, no problem, all day long, like easy. But so anywho, moving on, we're going to start on our recaps of this past week in the games. We're going to kick things off with my Denver Broncos, and then move along to the KC Raiders matchup with the interdivisional one. Always great, interesting games when divisional rivals play. And Coach, we do still need to cover your Chargers game, but it's up to you how brief you'd like to be about it. And we'll go from there.
We'll get the doll out.
We'll let you have some more to drink or something to kind of settle your nerves.
Silas got that doll fixation going, baby. You know how it is.
Yeah. So Denver Broncos had that's funny. Denver Broncos had one heck of a game against the Browns. Right out the gate, I don't know if anyone follows me on Twitter. If not, at Richie Richie, you can catch what I have to say on the Broncos and everything else, pretty much football related. There was a lot of controversy as it pertains to some of the defensive plays that the Broncos had versus the Browns, and I think it is important that they be addressed. Today, I reached out to the one and only Ref Guru. Shout out to Ref and NFL Nation Live. Captain, your kind of crew there that you're part of as well. I also reached out to arguably, one of the most authoritative Twitter and online references outside of Ref for NFL refereeing and the rule books, and that is Football Zebras. They actually did a breakdown of these various calls and whatnot. And I just think it's very, very important that we be objective about the calls that were and were not made. So we'll start off with the Baron Browning one, which is seemingly the most controversial of all the calls that were made on the field. And to all the Cleveland Brown whiners, fans.
Oh, no. Where's the same energy? You guys pay the refs, right?
What?
Where's all the Broncos fans? You guys pay the refs to get your calls. No calls. That's what happens with the Chiefs.
They were called. That's the problem.
Oh, okay. Then we're good.
So are we done? Great. Fantastic. Let's move
For
on.
now, I'll come back in.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can. Yeah.
You can spin the block on him later. Spin the block on him later.
Yeah. You can simmer down over there.
I reserve the rest of my time for rebuttal.
Okay. Fantastic. So what we saw with Baron Browning is less than a step or equal to a single step away from the Browns quarterback, who was near to, or at least in the back portion of the field there. Browning only left his feet after his hands had already contacted or touched the quarterback, did not lead with his helmet, did not lead with his shoulder, hands first, shoulder second, no helmet contact, and was called for roughing the passer, or a variation thereof. You are correct, Ed. They do in theory. There's just some teams, one of which is represented here on the channel, that happens to give them a side bonus for some of their games. We'll just kind of leave it at that. But anyways, with that particular call, that was not and should not have been called for what it was. It's unfortunate, and it's one of those things that is inconsistently called at best. And if they're not going to call it evenly, then they really ought not call it at all, or call it to the most egregious, aggressive thing to try to make those types of plays stop. But the problem is they're calling it in some games and not calling it in others. And in fact, the ones that they're calling it are sometimes the least egregious, and the ones that they're not calling it are sometimes the most egregious. It just makes no sense whatsoever. The other call that we saw, or no call rather, that we saw in the Broncos game, which was correctly not called, was the push that PJ Locke had, which was a completely legal hit that all the Browns fans and online all lost their minds about. He did not lead with his helmet. His hands were extended out in front of him, again, just like Baron Browning. And I think it's important that we need to address the really bad hits at the NFL and treat them the way that they ought to be treated. And I think it does a disservice to the egregious hits when you start shouting out very, very well executed hits on players and contact on players like PJ Locke had in that game against the Browns. Obviously, ultimately, the Broncos did win that game pretty handedly. And we saw marked improvements throughout the majority of the game for the Broncos. Enough where I am leaning in the direction of starting to see some included in the defensive improvement, some offensive improvement, which I'll go into after I let all you guys speak to the stuff I just said on the refs. Alex, anything to say now?
No. I didn't watch the game, so I don't know. I don't really know what we're referencing.
It's pretty well documented throughout the Xverse. So it's basically, those are the two big, officiating things from the Broncos game. But overall, the game was a solid one. Captain, coach.
We're talking about the officiating specifically. We're talking about the game.
You can get right into the entirety of the game if you don't have anything to say on the officiating.
Well, I don't know. I would have to say, at least from the rep perspective, I'll say this one thing: that it was bad enough. The optics of it was bad enough that you had to throw a flag. The man literally was bleeding after the hit, and he got a concussion. So, based upon the letter of the law and how they're cracking down from the concussion suit on down to 2023, as we stand here today, that was going to get called. Whether you agree with it or not, it is helmet not in it or not, whether they look dirty or he left his feet, whatever you want to painted as, it looked bad. It looked bad. So from that perspective, I see why they threw the flag. I mean, the man literally knocked the man out of the game. And I think that's the type of stuff that they're trying to avoid, if nothing else. We can argue all day about the Kareem Jackson stuff, Baron Browning's misgivings or not. We can argue semantics, but optics look bad. But from the game perspective, I definitely think that the Broncos are trending in the right direction. Actually, Richard, you missed it last night because Kurt and I had a spirited conversation about Russell Wilson and how that we were interested to see how quiet the naysayers have been lately about his play. His numbers, his efficiency. I'm sorry?
I haven't been quiet.
What? Are you a naysayer?
Yeah, I've never been a fan of Russell Wilson on the Broncos. Now, I will say that last game was, in my opinion, his first step, like the major step. And I'm a naysayer. I was never a huge fan of the signing.
Okay.
However, I will 100% give credit to Russ where credit to Russ is due, which is I was unwilling to give credit to Russell Wilson for the steps in the right direction because, to me, the steps that were being taken were not his doing. It was as a result of the play calling, the preparation, and the adjustments that were being made by the coaches. However, that changed with what I saw last game. We saw Russ in a huddle making adjustments and checkdowns and alterations. Now, I'm assuming he's the one doing it and not hearing it in his ear, but I have to give the credit where I believe the credit's due at this point, which was Russ was doing the things in order to make the adjustments at the line to then put the team in the right spot, right? So we saw up until this point, in fairness, for what it's worth, Russ did not appear to be the guy that was making the biggest difference. It was the coaching staff, it was the player personnel changes, and it was the scheme change. We actually put the right scheme in place for the right players that we had on the roster, and it took some time for them to get used to it. Russ, while his stats were better, I don't believe it was actually. Oh, come on now.
Leave it to Patriot.
Dude,
Patriot gets it.
I literally am on. There's video evidence of me online. I couldn't lie if I wanted to. Okay, just freaking go back and watch the tape. Okay.
Yeah,
Corey. Okay.
Patriot's funny, man. Listen, but yeah,
Corey's not drinking
honestly,
the Kool-Aid, man.
Yeah, I believe that if you look at the totality of Russ's tenure in Denver, you also have to understand that. Let's look at it from a holistic perspective of his career. I said it's about. I'm gonna use the Geno Smith and Russell Wilson comparison. I used it last night. When you have a quarterback that's been avid backup for his entire career, 10+ years, right? There is some merit to why he's a backup. If you look at a guy that's been an all-pro, perennial Pro Bowl type quarterback with 10+ years, there's some merit to that. So the idea of him being, quote unquote, washed and things of that nature, when it came down to the idea of him, completely, totally fall off the wagon in a day. Like, 1 minute he was in Seattle, he could play like an all-pro, he had a Hall of Fame arc. The next minute, all of a sudden he fall off, he's washed, he's no longer the same guy. I think that we can all look at the optics and say that when Nathaniel Hackett is doing in New York and what he did in Denver was an abject failure. But when Sean Payton got here, it takes time to learn Sean's system. It takes time to get comfortable and matriculate into what he likes to do and how he can highlight Russ's attributes and what he does well and what he doesn't do well, get it in and out of things and getting things in order and cleaning up all the the errors that were made in the time he's been there up until now. So I think that you're really coming into that mode and that stride where you really are starting to see a clear improvement and progression, and everybody's on the same page. And I do think it's going to get better, in all honesty. So I think that people that say, Russell's not the answer, you need to cut bait, get rid of him, just pay him to go away. Again, there are a lot of quiet people out there now when it comes to that. So, especially from the national media perspective, you ain't hearing nothing like that. Now they're talking playoffs. So it's quick. It's funny how people, completely turn their take in a matter of moments when things start to go well. So that was my only point about the idea. But again, I do like the way they're playing football. And on top of the fact that after you give up that 70 points, the defense has gotten progressively better when they were questioning your defense coordinators, ability to call plays as well. So now And
we covered that last show, though. I know you weren't able to make it, but Captain and I covered that pretty directly, actually. And in fact, I may even cover it when you and Alex were both on the show the week before. You have to give credit for three things with the Broncos. One, this front office, the front office is staying out of Sean Payton's way, I think, because the ownership has empowered
the best way to do business.
Yep.
Look at the Panthers.
They've stayed out of his way.
Exactly.
Yeah, they've stayed out of Sean Payton's way. And are allowing him to do the right things at the right times and bench players, even if they were eventually or at one point earmarked to be starters. So that's one. Number two is Sean Payton in general has put the right guys in the right spot and adjusted the offense to make Russ look better than he actually is. And that is why my previous comments, I still stand by them. And frankly, I still stand by them now, is I believe we are good in spite of Russell Wilson, not because of Russell Wilson. And what we saw last game was the first time that we saw Russ seemingly making the line adjustments that you would expect for someone who's getting paid the amount he is, and putting the right guys in the right spot to protect, against the pass rush, et cetera, et cetera. And then last, you have to give Vince Joseph some credit here. But again, this kind of goes back to the very first comment of the coaches being given the latitude to bench guys. Mathis did not play well in Vance Joseph's system. What did they do? Bench him, right? Benched him. That's the right call. And what did we see as soon as we brought in Moreau, and more importantly, McMillan? We just started absolutely destroying guys because we were able to cover them properly.
Not trash.
Because they're not trash, and they can
opposite.
What's the opposite of trash? Like what they are, right? And so we started to see the proper coverage and the proper, just they meshed properly into the system, and that makes. I mean, Coach, I think we did speak about this with regards to like linebacking and meshing of the D line into the right system and all that kind of stuff. Just how important that sort of player personnel stacking, both starting at the front of the line and working all the way to the back end of the lineup there on the defensive side of the ball. So we have those three tiers with the Denver Broncos, and that has turned our season around. I mean, to say it's a dramatic turnaround is almost understating it, right? Like I was fully on the look, if this is what we're going to look like, we need to start selling dudes off and moving on. And we've started to see the levers get pulled and people assimilate properly into the system and appropriately buy in, learning how to win, if you will, in terms of the narrative that we're seeing online, which I kind of agree with. That's important.
Yeah, you see this is NFL teams. You see when you have a little patience with people that have, mystique. If you're a little patient with people, sometimes things, turn around. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't get, Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady the day he walked into the Patriots. So I mean, let's calm down here. Let's simmer down a little bit. A little bit. Sometimes it takes time for things to work out. I mean, if it takes you're in a season and a half and nothing's gotten any better, i.e. the Chargers. If you get 3 years of Brandon Staley and the defense is worse than ever, then that's okay. We get it. But I'm not going to write the guy off the moment if we don't, completely start pitching shutouts week one. Like, no, that's not the type of attitude to have when it comes to the game of football. Because to your point, Richie, all those things got to be married up. Coaching got to be right. The personnel got to be right, and the scheme got to be right. If all those things aren't right and they're all in lockstep, then you have turbulence. Sometimes you win despite of that because you just got, supreme athletes or superior athletes. But 9 times out of 10, if those three things aren't married up, you're going to lose football games. So,
I would agree though with what you're saying, Richie, about kind of winning in spite of Russ, because even with all this success, it's not like I would have to go back and look at it, but I would really to bet that his stats now aren't that much different than what it was this time last year, outside of probably the turnovers.
Oh no, they're different. No, it's different.
But I don't think he's out there lighting it. He's not lighting it up like he's getting paid to light it up, is he?
No,
he hasn't totally turned the script, being with the offensive guru, to go back to, the Russ that he was to some degree. So, I mean, that's kind of where I think that some of this is masking that issue that's still kind of there. It's just not as prevalent as last year.
Well, I mean, if you look back to even in Seattle days, he never was a top 5 passing quarterback in any facet. He was more of a middle of the road. I would say top 15 maybe in yardage, but he wasn't never up there in the annals of where Mahomes and Breeze and Manning and all those guys were when he first got in the league. He never was that. But what he's not doing is turning the ball over. He's getting in and out of reads. He's making plays when he has to make plays. He's not going to throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns every day. That's not him. It's never been him.
Right.
But he has solid numbers. He's an efficient quarterback. He's not a top tier passer, but he's an efficient quarterback.
What is the most important thing about him this year, as of I would say this year recently, or say within the last 5 games, are the Broncos are winning? And honestly, that's all he needs to continue to do what he's doing and not lose the game as he was doing last year and earlier this year, doing things where he wasn't doing enough to win, or he was doing things, turning the ball over or doing stupid things to making them lose. He's not doing that, which means that the Broncos are winning and they are a better team because of it. Like I would pretty much venture to say that the Broncos are probably a top 5 team if you look at what they've done the last 6 weeks. Put it in comparison to what they are around the league with the wins that they are racking up, what they are doing, obviously win-loss wise, they're a top 5 team of the 32. And if they continue to do that, they will continue to ascend to be what people thought they would have been last year when we originally had Russell Wilson. And they said, ooh, the Broncos are going to be so good with Russell Wilson. And they sucked ass. But this year, now they're finally putting things together with Peyton putting his thumbprints on the roster. They're finally doing what they wanted to do last year, and they couldn't do with Hackett. They're doing this year because Russell is doing enough, and he's doing things so that they're not losing the game. And the team is buying in, and that's all that matters. I don't give a flying foxtrot what your stats are if the team is winning, which is why I always had that, the conversation about he who shall not be named, who used to wear number 4 for the Raiders, and everybody got all bent about his name, but he's a winner. He's a this. No, he was not a winner. He had a lot of good stats, but he wasn't a winner. I'll take a guy who wins and does the thing to make the team win rather than a guy that's accumulating stats. And, oh, by the way, that goes for you too, Mr. Davante Adams, because he was bitching about his stats and him getting his stats. But is the Raiders winning? Well, they weren't for a while. They won the first 2 under Antonio Pierce. They lost the last 2. It remains to be seen what will happen. I'd rather have wins than stats. And the immortal words of Mr. Raheem Morris, stats are for losers. Stats are for losers. And I don't want stats. I want wins.
Well, there's a few stats that actually matter. So the one challenge that I believe Russ has had.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, he was top 10 in passing. And one reason, Mike, why he was in that category was he had those long bombs that he was making down the field that were just gashing opponents. He'd go run, and then just bomb it like 20, 30 yards down the field. And it would to lock it, right? Like lock it. And he had this kind of special connection in terms of
and Doug Baldwin.
And
that one time when he didn't complete it, but he did.
Don't forget Dougie.
Yeah, but in terms of this season, Captain, you made some interesting points, but I think one thing that hasn't been spoken about yet is the Broncos have been +2 or better in their last 5 games in the turnover margin, and that, I'm seeing the defensive coach here at the bottom of the screen here, just like and that's a huge deal. And that's going to win you most games if you have even a modestly competent quarterback. And then on the flip side of the negative of the season, at least up until last game with the Browns, the Broncos did still have their struggles between the 20s on the offensive side of the ball, where we were constantly turning the ball, not constantly, but at least semi-regularly turning the ball enough where it gave me concern in terms of whether or not we could win a game outright if the turnover margin or ratio was even, for example. But again, to kind of counter that, I actually think this defense is starting to hit on all cylinders, and I think that taking the ball away is part of their MO. Yeah, and I think that's also a fair comment to make given where we're at now. So, I mean, all of these things are yin and yang in balance, and the Broncos seem to be in the right balance now, and I think that's in large part, again, I harken back on coaching. So, anyways, that's kind of the general review that I saw from the Broncos game, and just another piece and stat, if you will, which you can kind of take with a grain of salt for those that don't like stats, is that we did hold the Browns to an absolute just low rush attack, which is quite solid considering that has actually been a weakness for the Broncos defense, where our rushing, basically our run stopping has not been great. It's not been really bad, but it hasn't been great. And we've had a few games where we've kind of stepped it up, and a lot of other games where we have absolutely sucked. So last game, we really seemed to put an emphasis on that. And it certainly paid off. So I'm hoping we start to see that as a continued trend. But again, I need to see more than one game stacked for me to start saying, okay, good, we're back on track.
We got some nice matchups coming up, though.
Oh, yeah, they do. They do. That makes it better.
Yeah,
that makes it better.
I'm sure we'll get into that on the Lightning Fast Fantasy Podcast, but just saying.
That we will. Shameless plug.
Yeah, they do have a nice matchups coming up.
Yeah, and Captain and Alex, we're going to throw over to the AFC West divisional matchup of the previous week. Alex, given the fact that your team came out on top in that game, we'll throw to you first, and then we'll have you and Captain kind of go back and forth and discuss that game. Yeah,
I mean, overall, obviously, it was nice to see the Chiefs pull out, a pretty solid victory and kind of almost play three complete quarters of football, I'd say. I mean, I know I commented on Tap's Facebook that I was, that Josh Jacobs 63-yard run or whatever it was. I was kind of like that Key and Peele, meme. I was sweating bullets like, oh no, I'm going to have to find a new team, because if we lose to the Raiders, like, I don't know what I would do. I got to quit the show. I can't come on that. I'm kidding, but it was.
Wait. There's still a Christmas game. There's still a Christmas game. Just wait.
But at least now there's not the potential for two losses, just one. But okay. I'd say it started off like I thought. Pretty hard fought, scrappy, matchup to start the game. Obviously, Raiders had a very good game plan to execute, to start things, and Chiefs defense was a little bit, I'd say, out of the norm of how they were playing up to this point of the season, at least to start the game, because it went down 14-0 pretty quick. And, at least we're able to claw back into it at halftime. And then, I think this is where we saw the biggest thing from the Chiefs' perspective, the biggest difference we saw here. I think the last three games, they've been completely scoreless in the second half. And, at least we got to see him come out in the second half and score points and only give up 3 in the process. We kind of, to some degree, saw a little bit more electricity and explosiveness out of the offense as a whole than we have in weeks past as well. So, I'd say from the Chiefs' perspective of, securing the win after coming off of the loss against Philly, going into some key AFC West matchups, on top of playing some other big AFC foes coming down. You hope that this is kind of the quote unquote turning point for some of these younger guys that stepped up big in this Raiders game to build off of that, getting into these tougher matchups. And yeah, I mean, exactly talking about Mahomes' new receiver, sure, Rashee Rice, who at least for being a rookie has been, I'd say, as advertised, with his what the stock watch was on him coming out of the draft, and he's seemed to build off of the rapport that he has with Mahomes and just being involved in the offense week in and week out. So I think if the Chiefs want to be as successful as they've been in recent years, you're going to need Rice to step up. And I know I think I've said this every week, but be the 1B to Kelsey's 1A, because when they don't have a viable option, a la like these last 3-4 weeks, you see what happens where, they put some points on the board, but once we get to halftime with other teams making adjustments and things like that, they haven't been able to do anything. So it was good to see them, do that in terms of the second half and put up, 17 more points. Also good to see the defense flip the script at halftime and only give up 3 more, based off of the gashing that Josh Jacobs was doing in the first half. But that's always been the Chiefs' defensive weakness is the running game, and that goes with the Spags' I'm going to blitz the hell out of you approach. Sometimes it works, but if your front line's not getting any pressure, there is no safety net. And that is why we saw with Jacobs, untouched 63 yards. Actually, I think he touched Mike Edwards and pushed him into a different multiverse. But that biggest thing, Chiefs perspective wise, good to see them make some quality adjustments at halftime and actually be productive in offense and not sort of get this lead and hope that the defense can sustain it while the offense does nothing in the second half. It was also the only second game all year where they didn't have any turnovers. I'm gonna be John Madden here and say, that it's you traditionally win the game when you don't turn the ball over, but that's a very key thing for KC this year if they want to be successful. I feel like in years past they were able to mask some turnovers with just how explosive their offense has been, but as we've seen this year, it's not necessarily the same cup of tea in terms of offense. So they have to really capitalize on not making those dumb mistakes and turning the ball over. Like just thinking recently, I know I wasn't on for the Eagles game, but in that game, I mean, 2 crucial turnovers in the red zone that took points off the board, whether it be field goal or touchdown. So it's just nice to see them in an AFC West matchup not have mistakes like that, and get these Rashee Rices and Sky Moores and some of these other guys more involved. Obviously, I understand that Max Crosby was hurt, and I think that you do see a little bit of a different game, and especially in how they were passing with a fully healthy Crosby, because that guy's an absolute maniac. I mean, even with a damn near one knee, he still got 1 sack just off of pure grit and hustle. So, I mean, you got to respect that and know that, you probably see a little bit different production, both sides of the ball with a healthy Crosby. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was a good game. Hats off to the Raiders. I think Antonio Pierce is kind of, doing things. You can tell the team's totally different, like in how they approach, how they play the game, and how they scheme stuff. So I hope that they let him keep building off of it and bring him in for next year, and not kind of just go off the recency of they lost the last 2 of his games. But I think the Raiders are definitely trending in the right direction. Even the O'Connell looked pretty solid in the times. They definitely understand what they have with him and scheme to make him look successful. Make him successful, not look successful. But they're not leaving him out there on 7-step drops and saying, "Find Devontae or get sacked." They're. I mean, his point proven with that. KC only had 1 sack Karloftis, I think was the only player to get a sack. When you talk about a team that's second in the league in NFL in terms of sacks, so that the Raiders at least had a hell of a game plan in that regard. Seemed to diminish some of the rushing capabilities of the Chiefs defense. And I mean, obviously able to put 14 points on them like it was nothing and have me sweating bullets. So, yeah, good. I'm just saying, trying not to sound like a total smug asshole. And just, there was good things I thought you could see with the Raiders. And, for the most part, it was a hard-fought AFC West matchup like I thought it would be. So, yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Are you finished? My God,
Yeah.
do I, give me a little bit of the.
That was my
say.
monologue.
I mean, my God. Okay. That was a doctoral thesaurus dissertation, man.
That was some may say,
and Mike Carmelini thinks it was
impressive.
fantastic. So,
that
was
impressive.
That was yeah.
I blacked out.
And there was only a small portion of smugness in there because it was mostly filled with facts. So it was very non-smuggish.
That's why I'm glad we met in person. Now you know my presentation. It's not just virtual. You don't just get a virtual sense of how I do things. So
true.
There we go.
I still say bring Kara on camera more often because she's worth the spot. And again, great spots from Alex. I said, tell Kara that the captain loves her. I can tell her to bring me a beer too, but when she brings you over the one, except that I don't like beer. Remember what I drink. It's sweet Arnold Palmer.
Amaretto salad. That.
But again, great stuff from Alex and Mike. Mike got it down. Great breakdown. I will say this, okay? First off, to Kevin Harlan, there you go. Okay, Kevin Harlan, this is for you.
That's a KC guy too.
Anytime that you exactly, and he calls every KC game, so it's kind of like listening to Dan Fouts. It's kind of like listening to Dan Fouts call a Gargler game because he's just gonna be up on the guards. I had to do it, Coach. At least won a game. I'm like tied in my contract to at least say Gargler at least once a game. But there you go.
It was my contract.
In my contract, I gotta say Gargler at least once. Well, now it's twice. Oh, that at least right. Anyway, whatever. Anyway.
Stay focused,
Cap.
Point being
is that this is for you, Kevin Harlan. Kevin Harlan. Okay, I'm trying. For blowing, for giving the whammy when Carlson had missed the field goal in under 35 yards. He had like up-teen number of straight attempts, and here it is. Here's Carlson for a kick is under the, and of course he what do you call it when a golfer hits like the divot before the shot? Because that's what caused it. And so I'm glad we showed the replay on that.
He chunked it or hit it fat.
Yeah, it was horrible. And
that's the
he chunked the turf, and so the kick was.
It had to be the cleat. It had to be his cleats. It's usually on the club when that happens in golf, so it had to be his cleats.
Yeah, we're good. Well, whatever it was a horrible miss. But so the Raiders should have been up at that point 10, and then with the ensuing Josh Jacobs run, should have been 17-0, which was the way that the score was in Kansas City last Monday night, the last time they played in Kansas City on the Monday night game. They came out like gangbusters and put it to them, okay? And I don't really know, and actually Peggy and I had a really good dissertation on the show we had last night, is that the Raiders are still playing with one hand tied behind their back and the other one with lethargy, okay? Is that you still have a playbook that is McDaniels' playbook, although 75% of it has been scrapped. You got to find the best portions of the playbook that you have, because you just can't change a playbook mid-season with what you got. It's going to take the off season to do it. So you got to find plays that will work. He's at least trying to get the plays that will work, where he's actually using the tight ends more. He actually had a screen pass to Jacobs that worked. I hadn't seen a screen pass pretty much all season, and that one worked. And by the way, the Raiders did well. It was Spagnuolo that turned the trick on them. Once they figured out what they were doing, he changed the defensive philosophy, and that's what did the Raiders in. Even on the 63-yard run by Jacobs, it was the correct defensive call. It was a run blitz. The problem was when Jacobs got by the first portion, he was gone because there was nobody behind him other than the one guy he stiff-armed. But Spagnuolo was run blitzing a lot more in that game once they figured that this is what they were going to do, and they were successful doing it. Other than that one play by Josh Jacobs, you take that one out, he was probably averaging like 1.8 or 2.3. I didn't do the stats.
He finished with 5.5.
He wasn't doing a lot of running.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
and
20,
that was
20 for
had to do with that 63-yarder in there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you take that 63-yarder out of there, it was nothing. And that's where Spagnuolo came in, because he was doing what he needed to do. And it was Spagnuolo being able to do those things to the Raiders offense, which turned the game around. And it was also, and this was pointed out last night as well, Graham, I mean, the Raiders had kept the number one scoring offense last week to 20 points. But a number 9 offense, he didn't do the same things that he needed to do. He was letting the Chiefs dictate. He was playing prevent basically from the early portion of the second quarter on. Okay? And it wasn't working because Mahomes methodically went down and got the points back. And Graham needs to be more of a and Mahomes need to be kicked in the teeth and punched in the face, because he's just like Tom Brady. When he gets upset, when he gets, like, oh my God, they're hurting me, ref, they're hurting me, one of those type of things. Okay. He isn't himself. So when he's able to dictate what he wants to do, and people were saying exactly what Mahomes was, he's a punk. He's a very successful, fantastic punk, but he's a punk.
What's the saying? They hate us because they hate us.
Well, whatever. But it's true though. It's like when you have that smugness about you, you become a punk, and that's what he was. So he was able to dictate what they want to do. Okay, Ed, give me a call when you're done. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm Mike. I'm keeping it clean, Mr. Carmelini. Trust me, I haven't dropped an F-bomb yet. Okay. Point being is that he was able to dictate, and the Chiefs methodically got back in the game, and the Raiders had nothing to counteract that. And that's why they watched the lead disappear, much like they watched the lead disappear in Kansas City on that Monday night. And until the Raiders can dictate a defense which punches Mahomes in the mouth, figuratively, maybe even literally, it's going to continue to be that way. And I will say this about Max. Okay, well, I will say this. I think I kind of didn't like Max playing. And the reason why I say that is, and I'm sure Coach will attest to this on that, you can play when you're hurt, but don't play when you're injured.
Yes.
And Max played when he was
injured. Did you see the picture of his knee?
He played when he was injured.
Did you see that? His knee?
No, I didn't. I didn't, like, but it
was like a damn balloon. It was stupid. It looked like he had it was dumb. I don't know how he did it. Actually, I do know how. It's probably called painkillers and an injection.
Yeah. yes.
One
painkillers, injection, and adrenaline. And regular max adrenaline will.
And smelling salt. You know.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we need Max Crosby for the rest of the season. And I know he didn't want that streak to end, but you know what? It would have been better for him to sit out that game. I know he got one sack, but that one sack was basically caused by Coons, not Crosby. Coons and Bilal Nichols pushed the middle, and then when Mahomes ran around, he ran into him. So the sack was there. Okay.
Right.
So the point is that I would much rather Max have gotten that extra week of rest. Doesn't matter now because he's already played. But we know what we got with Max Crosby as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, if not the leader going into the clubhouse, and hopefully he will continue to have that. The Raiders D needs to take that enthusiasm and run with it, pun intended. They need to continue to coalesce around what they have. They got a great a man in the middle with Spillane. You know, the guy just has the heart.
He's a perfect Raider
with that 41.
He's a perfect Raider.
He is.
A piece. Comes in after the whistle.
He's wearing Phil
the ball out. I'd be like, easy, bud.
He's wearing Phil Villapiano's number. He's wearing.
That guy's a perfect.
He's wearing Phil Villapiano's number. There's nobody better than that.
He's the handgun.
He's good to go. And by the way, he's playing with a broken hand as well.
Oh yeah.
So I like his enthusiasm, but the Raiders need to do more. And we're going into the bye week, and hopefully people will get better. And I'm so glad to hear that Marcus Peters is no longer with the team, because he was a waste of a roster spot. He didn't cost $31 million like somebody else. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I drop that too soon, Coach? I'm whatever. But he wasn't a waste of $31 million, but he was a waste of a roster spot and money. And we got rid of him before we owed him like 1.5 in bonuses. Good for us, because he was a waste. And then when you have somebody come back like Roderick Teamer, who gets off of the IR, gets put on the active roster, and then has a DUI the day of the game,
makes you wonder how many of those other dudes are doing that.
Bye-bye,
Felicia.
Yeah. So, Captain, I have a couple.
I
have a couple questions with regards to your game there, and then we'll move on to Coach. So, one is your team has typically seen, or has seen in the last couple of games, an improvement in your defensive play, particularly in the secondary. That goes for the entirety of the season for the most part, but in particular, the last little bit with AP coming in as your head coach. We saw a little bit of a regression there in terms of Mahomes and getting guys open and whatnot. If I was you, that would be somewhat concerning, because you don't want that to be a trend. I would assume you agree with that. And then the other piece, you kind of made a couple kind of comments there, which is if AP can't make adjustments like he needs to, do you think that would actually prevent him, or in turn Mark Davis, from appointing him the successful head coach candidate going into next year? Because, I mean, I would argue that being able to make adjustments as the game progresses, and certainly at halftime at minimum, you think would be kind of like a must-have for the job.
I agree to a point, but he's also a rookie head coach, and the one thing that he brings is that people are playing for him, and unlike Rich Bisaccia, he actually brings something to the table. He brings something to the table. Rich, people were playing for Rich, but Rich had nothing else to bring other than, hey, the guys are playing for me and they like me. Well, okay, great, thanks, Rich. But AP has the enthusiasm and the wherewithal as a defensive coordinator in the past, that he just needs to have an OC come in, an OC to come in that has a system that will be good for the players that they have, and you run it. You got to do it in the off season because, like I said, these are the remnants of McDaniel's players and definitely his playbook. And it's kind of like, when Denzel was saying, "Hey, I got 8 plays. Keep running them like Novocaine. They'll work."
Yeah.
Well, if they're not working, you got to at least find the right 8 plays that are going to work. And they have had at times the plays that are working. They're bringing in the tight end and they're using him. They're using Renfro. My God, the guy was on a milk carton for the first 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know they wanted to trade him. And thank God Mark Davis nixed what would have been a trade to get rid of Renfro, because the guy is a remarkable receiver. Okay. They need a great offensive coordinator to go along with the defenders that they got. They need to get better in the secondary, and they need to have more push in the middle. And that's why people are actually saying that they're thinking about bringing Wilson, who is a mountain of a man, and letting him use some more in the middle, because Kuntz is playing a decent end on the opposite side of Crosby. You get some push with Kuntz, and you get the regular, and that's a pass rush with Wilson, not necessarily a run rush, because they're getting a decent run rush with the guys that are in there, which is Nichols and I can't remember the other guy's name. I apologize.
Tillery.
Well, yeah, Bilal, but the other guy on the opposite side is doing decent in the middle as far as the run stopping. They need a pass rush from the middle. That's where I think that Wilson might be suited there. You put Wilson and then Crosby, if he's not already blown out his knee for the year, with Kuntz on the other side, you can use that. So they got some of the pieces, Diablo is playing decent. Masterson, obviously, Spillane. You need some help in your back. And we just got rid of 2 defensive backs that were waste products, okay? But you got Jones that came in, the Patriots guy. They took a flyer on a was he a first or second round talent, and he was already playing. And you got a decent cover corner in him that they can use. You get Bennett's a little bit on the small side, but he can play. And if you think Bennett's small, then Amik Robertson is like the Kevin Hart of the defensive backfield, because he's even smaller. But the guy can ball. He can play. I wish he was about 3 inches taller. He'd be an All-Pro each year with the way he makes plays. They need some help back there. But the safeties are playing better. Epps with Merrick, they just need some more pieces and more continuity. And it's unfortunate. The defense has been playing well this year, and that's why they did what they did against Miami. The offense can't score enough points. And when was the last time? It's usually the flip side. The Raiders' offense would score 40, but they'd lose 42-40 because the defense wouldn't be able to stop anybody. Now the defense is playing a lot better, where they're stopping people for the most part. And, they didn't do it against Kansas City, but they've been doing it for the weeks prior. And they just need to score more points. So they need to find the plays that will give them the offensive continuity where, hey, if the defense plays lights out like they can do it, maybe they can win those 21-20 games, because that's what it's going to amount to.
I completely agree. And when we speak of teams that are putting up reasonable offensive numbers for the most part, and their defense can't stop the opponents from scoring, that to me sounds like a beautiful transition to throw over to Coach to talk about his Chargers and just simply go from there. I mean, if that isn't a perfect
see what I did for you? I gave a fantastic segue right to you, Coach. Segue.
It wasn't intentional. I'm not giving you credit for that. I'm not giving you credit for that. It wasn't intentional.
Nice soft toss.
I'll give Richie credit for bundling that up and flipping it, but it wasn't on Cap's radar to segue for me to come in and get my
relief.
Stay
here, D-Zed, for as long as you can.
Right.
Cherish it.
Yeah. Well, as you know, if you watched the show last week, guys, I gave my breakdown about the game and what it was going to be like for us on Sunday. You know, and I actually tweeted this as well. I think we need to get our emotions ready for a letdown because nothing about this game told me that it was going to be in our favor. I mean, we're talking the Ravens came in with the top 5 defense and offense. If most people have been paying attention, so that's a daunting task, and not even so much their defense is their offense. I mean, you look at it, our defense being bottom tier in practically every category, and their offense clicking. It was a recipe for disaster. I mean, again, they're putting up points. You can't stop anybody. That's going to be a heavy load to lift. Let's put it like that. But I was surprised, from a scoreboard perspective, at least until the very end, how they bend but don't break when it came down to what they were doing against the Ravens for the most part. It's that's the silver lining in the storm that we're in right now as Chargers fans. But what I also did notice is that when the Ravens absolutely positively needed to make a play, we couldn't stop them. Like when they needed a crucial third down, when they needed to run the ball, when they needed to throw the ball, when it was those key moments where you could get them off the field, we couldn't do that. And that was the difference of the game from my perspective. A lot of people, I guess you can say questionable, questioning, how the offense was doing based upon the fact that, the defenses were playing better. But, if you look at the numbers, I mean, we still gave up 361 total yards in offense. Gave up almost 200 yards on the ground. So again, it may from a game perspective not look as bad as it was, but it was just a slow kill. They didn't have any deep gashing plays, no. But like we've been experiencing over the course of this season, but they still had efficient plays and plays that definitely hurt us in bad spots where they were able to get either field goals or points. That being said, I still feel like it was still gift wrapped us for the steal if we had the fortitude. I mean, we had an uncharacteristic miss by Justin Tucker in a field goal, which was a gimme. When he missed the field goal, I was like, what are we in the Twilight Zone?
Yeah, it really pissed me off when that happened.
That's a fantasy plug.
I about cut him.
Yeah. No, you're not. Stop that lie.
Nah, I was kidding.
Stop
I thought
that lie.
about it.
Very quickly,
did cross my mind.
It was very fleeting. It was very fleeting. Yes, it was not. It didn't last long. It did not last long. But I guess we should know. We should have known going to the game is going to be rough.
Be sure to get your best fantasy advice after the show. Be sure to get
there you go. 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Lightning Fast Fantasy Podcast. There you go. Lightning Fast Fantasy Football Podcast. Yes. So I think we also already realized that it was going to be an uphill climb for us offensively. With clearly no Mike Williams. We haven't seen anything from Quentin Johnston, obviously. Jalen Guyton still not himself, working back off that ACL. And Josh Palmer's out. So, we did get Gerald Everett back, who's ironically scored a touchdown in this game. But, Austin Eckler has been a shell of himself. We haven't seen him. We haven't seen Austin Eckler be Austin Eckler here lately. That's a problem. And that's definitely something that you didn't envision with him trying to get a new contract from anybody, not just us, but anybody. The way he's looking at this point, he's not going to garner a whole lot of
looks like his name's Austin Eckler Hilaire.
Something like that. Yeah, his name is Mud pretty much now in regards to him getting a long-term deal or a big deal coming to the off season. But again, it's just outside of Keenan Allen, and Justin Herbert, that's the only thing you can really hang your hat on from an offensive perspective. The only thing you can count on, and you can see it. It's just like every time I try to get these other guys involved, they let me down. Drops, uncharacteristic fumbles, but also even Keenan Allen got stripped and fumbled. So it was just a storm of bad things on offense for us, and then protection was an issue. I harken back to even the last play of the game, and this is where you miss Corey Linsley because the line adjustments weren't proper, and the Ravens took advantage of it. And they didn't blitz a lot, but they blitz. They had timely possessions where they blitz, and it was effective in getting us off the field. And getting pressure when they needed to get pressure on crucial third downs. We lost a red zone opportunity by getting sacked and Justin Herbert ended up fumbling. So, turnovers, giving up almost 20 yards on the ground, And the biggest FU moment of all, unless Zay Flowers catch 2 touchdowns. Because I think we all understand if you watch the show glowingly, and you watched me at any point in time from the time the draft started till now, I was a Zay Flowers proponent, and I said we should have drafted him if we didn't get JSN. They took JSN pick before us. We should have taken Zay Flowers and could have taken Zay Flowers with our pick, and they did not. So he burned us for 2 touchdowns, and you see what you get. Quinn Johnson didn't even finish the game. It was like going back to the whole Steve Smith and Aqib Talib fight. One guy was shining and one guy didn't finish the game. Ice up, son. Ice up. So I think that that's the biggest problem. And at this point for me, I'm just like looking at it from a perspective that what's the point of winning at this point? We're just hurting ourselves from a draft style perspective. Because people say, well, we can still mathematically make the playoffs, but do you really want to deploy this defense the way it currently stands as in the playoffs and get smoked by one of the good teams in the league? I don't think so. I mean, it'll be.
Yeah, I want to see it.
No, you don't. Be quiet.
I think too they have to almost because if you make the playoffs, I think that arguably buys Staley another year. And I think you almost need a blow up so that
yet another reason.
Get out.
Yet another reason. Yeah, another reason why we don't
sign that
want
man
to
up
it.
for an extension, baby.
But that's the thing. I don't even think it buys him that, to be honest with you, because it'll likely be another blowout, and then you getting embarrassed in the playoffs is just another indictment on his record. And I think I've heard multiple reports from national media said that short of a miracle and by winning the Super Bowl, he was likely gone. So only thing they don't do is going through the idea of firing him in season.
Yeah, he might be gone anyways if they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
thanks. But off the project.
Yeah, but I think that I think the players are understanding that it's time to move on to. I think the effort and the things that happen, the players that you can typically count on, is not even happening. Again, it's Austin Eckler's fumbling in a high clip. Keenan Allen's firing, fumbling in a high clip. Again, cut that out. Ain't nobody want Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels will never coach head coach again.
You guys are getting Billy B, dude. Billy B is gonna run shop.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. They hired Bill Belichick. I quit.
If they do, I will send you a Mahomes jersey, and you can just join the squad, brother.
I quit. It makes no sense to hire Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's time in this league is past. Because he's going to come in, he's going to want too much control, and he does not know how to play modern football. What to do. He does not know how to play modern football. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He does not.
I saw a tweet today on his past.
Bill Belichick, the new GM and head coach of your
Los Angeles you just want us to constantly fail.
Coordinator, Josh McDaniel.
Yeah. Well, we're not gonna go back and harken back how you were crying blues about McDaniels for the last 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
You don't want Belichick, dude.
We don't want anybody in New England.
I gave him a shot. And then wait a second. It was more than that. Like about halfway through that, I was like, no, get rid of his ass. I was ready to get rid of his ass after a month. Coach, check the tape on that. Check the tape. I gave him 4 games, and I said, I've seen enough. Get rid of his ass.
Well, listen.
I like that. The Los Belichick Garglers.
I quit. Listen, I refuse to give any more takes on the Chargers if they hire Bill Belichick as the coach. And to be frankly honest with you, it's not far fetched. But the only thing about it is going to keep him from not being the coach is that Kraft will have to fire him, and they have to hire him outright because they're not going to trade for him. That's what they're not going to do.
They'll have to move on.
Trade. They'll have to. Kraft will have to fire him, and they'll have to hire him, and they're not going to trade for him because he's under contract still. That's one of the things. That's one of the things keeping him from, a guarantee that he'd be a candidate. But I want Jim Harbaugh personally, but that's a whole other conversation for another day.
Whoa!
Now Harbaugh's going to the Bears, and he's bringing Ron Rivera with him.
Good luck.
Harbaugh's going to the Bears, and he's bringing Ron Rivera with him.
I could see that.
Frank Wright's out there, so
I'd take Dayball at this point. No, Frank Reich's getting paid by 2 teams. Frank Reich's getting paid by 2 teams to sit on his ass, man. I'd be doing that.
Why would he coach? I wouldn't coach.
He's making
almost $500,000 a day to not coach from Carolina Panthers.
Just do good enough to get that 1 paycheck and then stop carrying.
Listen. Sign me up for what?
Can't have a third right.
Yeah.
I like it. No more. No, not a Third
funny.
Reich.
That's
funny, but it's
Not
also
a Third
bad.
Reich.
That's funny.
Damn.
But I mean,
hey,
funny.
this is the half Jewish guy that said that. So for all you people out there saying that I'm a Nazi, remember my last name is Levy. So screw you. It's a joke.
I identify.
Sadly, Captain, in today's day and age, jokes are just,
jokes are bad.
How dare they sometimes offend, right?
Jokes are bad. Okay.
Oh my God.
They're bad. Okay.
Get a sense of humor, okay?
Yeah. So
stop joking. Okay.
So Coach, I guess the one thing that we did see there, and you effectively predicted in your video for us last week, was the time of possession was really what ultimately killed the Chargers here, which was, it was a death by 1,000 paper cuts because the team was able to methodically move down the field. For those plays that they weren't able to outright make, if they had to get that third down, they were able to just simply do it and then go right back to the just owning time of possession and not giving Herbert the time to get back on the field. And ultimately,
don't forget the 4 turnovers. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was the 4 turnovers. I mean, time of possession wasn't that far off.
No, it wasn't that. It was 33 minutes to 26 minutes, so it wasn't tragically skewed. But I mean, the 4 turnovers doesn't help. I mean, especially one in the red zone when you could have got at least 3. I mean, you look at it, effectively a tie game if they get that 3 points, at least in that drive, and then the last touchdown would have been a backbreaker. But again, you're more so in the game at that point. Things get different when you're tied versus being up a possession, and things got to fall off the rails. But it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah. So moving on to Lucky 13 and starting to review the look ahead for all of our teams, which is likely welcomed for most of us, particularly on the bottom half of the screen here, which gives us another opportunity to come out ahead. I'm going to throw over to you, Coach, and we'll start with the Chargers this go around and discuss your Week 13 matchup.
Ironically enough.
They're playing the Patriots, right? I was just going to say that. I said we talk about Bill Belichick, and then watch him try to audition for the job and try to play well.
Coaching audition or preview.
Yeah,
right?
he's going to try to audition and coach well and try to act like he knows what he's doing for a change to impress the Spanos family, to say that we need that guy. But no, I think that we understand that at least from the outside looking in, it's not something you should sign up for, especially long term. If he's the consultant for the defense, I can see it. If he's the defense coordinator, I can see it. Maybe. However,
he's wearing his dress-up hoodie.
But I don't.
He would not take that, and I don't think you can't give him power. Like you can't give him roster control.
You can't be a GM. You can't make roster decisions.
I just sent you a tweet that notes.
I saw that. He said he's retired. Yeah, I agree. I saw that earlier.
People he drafted over other people, and you're like, God dang.
Listen, people browbeat Tom Telesco for drafting. You think that we're going to really be happy with Bill Belichick drafting for us? Do you really think that? Let's just put that on the record there.
Yeah.
Look.
I mean, just to put this into perspective. List 2018.
In the 4th round.
Isaiah Wynn over DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, and then also took Sony Michel over Nick Chubb. That's just 2018.
Exactly. Come on now.
Yeah, they're bad.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So do you really want to sign up for that?
N'Keal Harry over Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, and Terry McLaurin. Hell, that is all the elite wide receivers in the league
right now. Exactly. Right.
Imagine having
that on your fantasy.
The Houston Roughnecks and the whatever fan control football league.
He just got cut today.
Well, Bill Belichick is unfortunately not talking into the mic. It's a little quiet in terms of
we can't hear Fox Bill over there. We can't hear Fox Bill.
It's too quiet.
Yeah. But anyhow, again,
you can't hear me? I need to turn up the volume. That's ridiculous.
And we're on to Cincinnati.
Bill, why are you so aggressive?
Right.
Yeah.
But going back to the game, it'll be apropos for him to actually play well. The team to actually play well for a change to quote unquote trying to show that he is vying for his next job. Because if they play well and they actually beat us, that's going to just drum up the narrative even further that he's going to be the Chargers' next head coach, which I will absolutely throw up in my mouth. But regardless of that, regardless of that, they're not playing well. But again, what we do best at this moment is make bad teams look good, and that's what scares me. And I don't even know who the quarterback is. It's going to be Bailey Zappi, Malik Cunningham. I would actually prefer Mac Jones quarterback because he's doing the best. He's doing the best impression of giving the other teams, turnovers. In the league right now, he's throwing the ball to the other team at a high clip, a higher clip than he is his own team. Actually, he's throwing to the other team like he's shaving points. Tough. Yeah,
the amount of times that guy's giving me 5 points or less in my super flex spots really,
it's rough.
Really hit me in the nuts.
Rough sledding there. Rough sledding. So yeah, but I fully expect the Bill to run the ball with Stevenson a lot because we can't stop the run, obviously. So I expect a heavy dose of that, especially it's going to be in Foxborough. It's going to be cold. So I expect a heavy dose of Ramondre Stevenson and whoever else he got back there running the ball. And just whoever the quarterback is going to be. I would ironically think, wouldn't be surprised if he rolled out Malik Cunningham to give him a running component of it. Give him a dual threat guy to even further frustrate our porous defense. So that'll be interesting to see. But overall, I'm not confident. I don't particularly want to win this game. I'm looking at the draft already, saying hopefully we get a top 7, maybe 5 pick in the draft and go from there to give the next new regime a good starting off point, good jumping off point as far as picking high in the first 3 rounds and get some quality talent in here finally. Because we have to make some hard decisions. I said this on my 30-minute lockdown. I want to say it was last week that no matter what happens with the GM and the coach, the GM's going to have a rough go at it if they hire a new GM. Like he's going to have to do a lot of cleaning up. With the salary cap looking like in 2024, he's going to have a daunting task to get his team under the cap, 1, and 2, be able to field a decent roster with a Herbert's deal kicking in. So, yeah, it's good luck. Good luck. I don't envy you at all. So. But having good quality, relatively inexpensive rookie talent is going to be paramount for the next 2 years for us because we're heavy against the cap at this point. We're going to have to make some tough decisions on Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. So
trade him.
Yeah, so I think that if we even keep having those guys, I'd be surprised based upon how the numbers shake out at this point. So we'll see. But I mean, again, I'm not banking on any more wins out of the Chargers. And quicker we can get still out the building, the better. And hopefully we can start over fresh with somebody better off in our own, kind of get this team on the right path. But that's a heavy ask. So, as far as the game is concerned, not looking forward to it. And honestly, of course, I'll watch it, but I'm not looking for us to win. I'm just hoping that Justin Herbert does not get hurt. Neither does Keenan Allen, and we can save the guys that we value, and then go from there. But outside of that, not looking for much.
Well, in the plus side, the Bosa's, at least Joey, should really be taking payment in Smirnoff Ice Cherry at this point.
He need to give us that money back.
Bud Light Seltzer. It's Bud Light Seltzer. But.
Yeah, he need to give us that amount of money back at this point. He's
done. I think he's gone. I mean, he's obviously out for sure.
That's the thing. I mean, you can't from a punitive cap perspective, it'll be much more punitive to cut him than it is to cut Mac. So, because Mac is doing
I think
they'll
be able to trade both of them. They'll have to eat some of the money. But I mean, edge rush is a premium position. So I mean, It's gonna be easy. I mean, hell, look at how many dudes that were at one point in time elite at edge rusher that just get signed off the street because they need depth. Like so.
Jason Pierre-Paul got to deal with it. Yeah, he got to deal today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think those are probably the two commodities that they can move on from the easiest.
But that's the thing, capital. Though. I mean, would you rather keep an edge rusher and at least one, and get
Yeah.
Let's be honest with you. The stock of where Khalil Mack is at his age is higher right now than it is with Joey Bosa because Joey Bosa stays hurt. So if you're a person that's trying to trade for him, yes, Joey's he's younger, but he's injury prone. But Khalil's older, but he's more productive, and he stays on the field. And he's not missed a game since he's been a Charger. So you got to look at that from that perspective. Yeah, he's 32. But he's productive and he's available versus Joey Bosa, who's more expensive, and he can't stay on the field. So you got to look at that. What would you, as a team that's trying to trade from, what would you even give for that? That's the question. If they're going to give you a 6th round pick, why bother?
It depends. So how many years are left on Bosa's deal? Like 1, 2,
3.
2,
He's
3.
3. Khalil's on his last year after this year. He's 2 years left. This year's second last year. This next year will be his last year.
I think you extend Mac.
Yeah.
I think you keep and extend Mac to try to bring in a young guy in the draft to take on the.
You got Thule.
We got Thule because you already got a young rookie who's productive, so you need one.
No. But you keep Mac, trade Bosa, even if you get like a 6th or even a 5th. You move on from that contract. You move on from that contract.
I can't accept a 6 for $100 million contract.
I think you get more. I mean, look at like Chase Young. What did he go for? A 3rd, and that was because he's.
But he's on a rookie deal, though. See, Chase on a rookie deal. We're talking about Boston's on his extension deal. This is the whole different talk of money we're talking. He got $120 million right now. That's what we're talking. He's only $20 million man. That's way different than a rookie deal, even at a high draft pick. So it'd be hard pressed. I would discuss restructuring or trying to get a higher draft compensation or a player in a pick for Bosa before I sell him. You know, for cheap. I or cut him. I would definitely hold off on that. I would definitely hold off on that personally. But again, that's we got all day to talk about off season and draft. But that would be my thoughts.
We'll get to
that. And I agree. You are in a tough spot looking ahead. But
should be fun. It'd be fun to talk about.
Oh, now you want to take Khalil back on Cap? I saw that. I'll try to sneak that pass. I saw it.
Said, what?
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
I'll put it back again. I'll put it back again.
Oh, now you want
I'll put it back again. The only reason, like I said, I will not wear that jersey while he's playing in the NFL for a team other than the Raiders. But if he comes back a la Woodson, I'll be more than happy to wear it back. And he's shown his product, like you said. He was the one that wasn't producing when he was with the Packers. When he was with the Packers, it wasn't all that.
You guys need to bring Chandler Jones back. He's just not. There's something wrong with him.
Right? Yeah, something wrong with that dude.
He's just in his mansion.
With that,
not just no.
But yeah, of course.
I gotta say.
So, Alex, with that in mind, we're going to throw over to your upcoming game now that we've gone over the Chargers and talk about your game coming up in week 13. And, what you have to look forward to, the ups, the downs, and I hope that doesn't happen.
So Chiefs got a pretty, at least enticing looking matchup on paper against the Packers and Lambeau on Sunday night. I think they're 6-point favorites. Packers obviously up and down year. I feel like both of these teams, at least from an offensive perspective, have been kind of up and down in terms of explosiveness and production. Granted, it's a little apples to oranges to say the production you get from Jordan Love is the same you get from Patrick Mahomes, but at least in terms of where these two units are at, I think you see both are coming off of arguably their best games of the year from the offensive side of the ball. I think what it really boils down to for the Chiefs, looking at the injury report, Packers have like 15 guys on their injury report, which is wild enough as it is. But, there does at least appear to be some key members of their secondary, Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Devondre Campbell, pretty key linebacker for him, are all limited participants, and I don't think have been playing for a while now. So I do think that's certainly something to monitor, because if those guys come back, we could see a little bit different type of play, than we saw last week with them, building off of Rashee Rice and, using Kelsey for the big plays and kind of just letting Pacheco run someone the F over with how he runs, so that's something to watch. But that being said, the Packers defense is very middle of the pack, if you will. So I think that we Chiefs, from a Chiefs standpoint, I think you can see them.
Right.
it was very much intended. But I think from a Chiefs standpoint, you just hope that you can see them build off of the same production that we had last week, play 4 full quarters of football and not, get behind in these big deficits and have to crawl back. You just hope to see, like I said, sustained explosiveness and productivity on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, you just hope that they can kind of keep the way they've been playing. Honestly, outside of the first quarter last week, they have been playing at elite levels on that side. Interesting LeBron-esque stat for Chiefs defense. They've held 11 consecutive opponents to 21 points or fewer, or 24 or fewer, sorry. But that's pretty good company when you're playing, playing in the NFL in general, but I think versus how Chiefs defense have been in the past. Huh?
Consecutive or total?
Consecutive.
Okay.
But either way, yeah, you hope that they could kind of put a little bit of a stopgap on the building that the Packers were doing last week against Detroit. Biggest keys I think for this game are, especially with Patriots calling it a trap game component. I do think that there definitely is some of that because you have Green Bay kind of clicking at the right time. But to me, honestly, this is a big trench game. Not most games are, but especially in this type of scenario, D-line has to get after Jordan Love. Detroit didn't do a very good job last week of getting pressure after him, and you saw, and I've kind of watched him a little closer probably than I should because he's one of my fantasy QBs, so I have to kind of make sure he's not doing me dirty. And at least in earlier years when he was struggling, it's just because he didn't have time to. He didn't have any time to do anything, was getting flustered and would make stupid, almost, in a sense, rookie mistakes. And that's what we got to have to do from the KC perspective, to keep this, to let this be a dominating game for them. You can't have a 1-sack performance. You got to have continued pressure. Flip side of that, Green Bay's defense got 3 fumble recoveries off of sacks last week. Offensive line has to keep Mahomes upright, keeps the pressure to a minimum, and that will allow your Rashee Rice's, and Sky Moore, and hopefully Kadarius Toney at some point, build more into the offense and continue to see that explosive prowess that we have seen from KC in the past. So, my predictions: Chiefs 31. Packers 17, but that's just because I would really like to see them score over 30 points in a game in back-to-back weeks. It could very much be a trap game, as Patriot would say, but I just don't see the Packers. I don't see them continuing the same success they had offensively against Detroit that they do against the Chiefs defense. It could blow up in my face, but I think Chiefs defense is way more in that elite stratosphere than Detroit's is at this point of the season. So, I think good game, should be a nice way for the offense to build. And I'm with you, DZ. I need Kelsey to catch 1 or 2 tutties.
Travis Swifty.
Yeah, she might be there. So if she is, expect a 400-yard receiving game and 8 touchdowns. Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, Patriot, key to the game is don't throw to anyone whose initials are MVS.
Yeah.
That guy's got 10-minute highlight tape and dropping passes.
Don't throw it to stone hands.
That's it.
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah. I mean, definitely Green Bay has some challenges, and if you play them the right way, Jordan Love struggles like most QBs do with pressure, being forced to throw too soon, that kind of stuff. You have a decent pass rush there in KC, so I could certainly see that being used to your advantage. And your defense is, like as you said in the last bit when we first started the show, your defense is playing at a pretty stellar level this season. So you really have the ability to do some things against Green Bay. I do think that the one challenge you will have, though, is what version of your offense are you going to see against Green Bay's defense? Because I think we can pretty much agree that you're probably going to have a pretty good defensive performance because your team has played good defense all year. The question is, which version of your team you're going to see this game on the offensive side? Is Rice and Mahomes going to continue to ladder their success with one another and build upon, put another brick on top of that house and foundation as they kind of continue forward? Or was last game kind of just a flash in the pan and we kind of revert back to mediocrity?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
Answer your question, DZ. Both A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones did not practice, at least today. So we'll see on that one. For fantasy purposes, I really need Aaron Jones to play. So.
Oh, he's not playing for. Give him
I need him to play, and I need him to have 100 yards. But,
you can give up on that. At best, you're gonna get Patrick Taylor and A.J. Dillon. That's all you're gonna get. That's the best you're gonna get.
But yeah, no, I do hear what you're saying, Richie, and I do. I mean, I think that's a concern with the Chiefs' offense. I think that's a concern every week until they are able to put 2-3 weeks of consistent outings together. That's why I kind of mentioned, though, monitoring, these Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, these players that are limited participants in practice right now. Because, I mean, I think if you see those guys come back, definitely more caution on more specifically the Mahomes-Rice connection being, like you said, a little bit of a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I think Rice has been a pretty consistent presence in the offense. It's just a matter of how involved do they get him game in and game out. I think that, like this last week, heavily involved. I think he had 8 targets, but that's because I felt the coaches made it a specific point to not throw MVS the ball. So, so I'm curious to see, at least with this game, how they build off of the Raiders game, knowing that Rice is capable of, 8 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown, and hope that that's a weekly thing. But I do think that is a, concern with the Chiefs offense, just how they've played for the first 12 weeks, is that this hasn't been consistent, hasn't been the same explosive Chiefs offense that we've seen. And I, kind of like as we were talking about, Russ and the Broncos, I think some of that's, with the Chiefs, their lack of offensive production's, I think, been masked by the fact that their defense is not barely giving up 14 points a game. So it's like, it hasn't been that big of an issue. But as you get later into the year here, the schedule doesn't get any easier. Like, they're going to need that offense, especially, pumping into playoff time. So, I'm hopeful that this is the game they kind of put 2 and 2 together here. And, we can have everyone saying the Chiefs are back, as they so graciously seem to do this Monday after this Raiders game. But, I don't think it's an all the way back thing yet. I think they kind of have to prove it twice.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a team that has actually put up more than 14 points on the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to be moving on to the Denver Broncos, who, when we last played the Chiefs, put 24 on the scoreboard.
That's the only time.
It is. But depending on
game in 3 weeks too. So
yeah. Well, I mean, you can make excuses all you want. You still lost.
It's not an excuse. I believe it's a fact.
It is a fact, but you still lost.
You look at the calendar.
I think that was rather smug. That was rather smug.
Oh, it was.
Oh my God, that was so smug.
Yeah.
That was smug.
He sounds like an addict trying to make excuses for behavior. You still lost. It is what it is.
Loss is a fact, but what I said is a fact too.
Yeah, it is. So when we look ahead for the Broncos this week, there's a recent news with one of the top wide receivers for the Houston Texans there, who's likely not playing. Smug but great. I love how Mike is a recent add into the show. Love the fact that he's coming in, joining live, and he's already got all the verbiage down. Like he's got all the different it's fantastic.
He gets it. He just gets it.
He just gets it. So with regards to the Broncos, I'm going to keep this very, very brief so we can kind of keep the time moving and move forward with this. Left tackle out for the game. It looks like, or their main tackle, one of their main tackles, Titus, is out for the game, and he has been an excellent player for them. And I do believe that with him being out, we are going to see some defensive keying in on that side of the ball and or spreading out where they believe that they're going to probably have to shift protection in that way, which will leave guys like maybe Zach Allen open to get into the backfield there and get after the quarterback, and then kind of start playing, back and forth, tagging people in and out just in terms of where the coverages land. So whether or not you get Baron Browning, Zach Allen, or Cooper, I think you're going to get some pressure in this game. And I do think that we are going to be able to get to the quarterback pretty successfully as we get rolling. The other one is from the defensive perspective as well. I believe our cornerbacks, they're just playing pretty well now, and that's just kind of being modest in terms of how we've generally played so far since we've made those adjustments that we spoke of earlier in the show. I can kind of see more of the same happen there, and I believe that with physical play and coaching doing the right things for us, with Vance Joseph showing that he can turn things around even after an absolute just historic loss to the Dolphins. He's then kind of literally just flipped the switch and never looked back. And I can see more of the same. So those are the two big ones, I think, for me in the Broncos. And I do think we're going to see aggressive running of the ball. That's going to be my prediction.
Yes, we need that. Javonte Williams on my fantasy team. We need all that.
I actually don't think Williams is going to be the guy that's going to get the production.
And remember, get all your great fantasy points at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on
the Lightning Fast Fantasy Podcast.
Dude, drop your friggin' title. Thank you. Come on, man. I can't do it all.
You talking to me?
I line them up, man. Whatever.
What are we doing?
Whatever.
What?
Me? Who, me?
So that's actually with regards to fantasy, I actually would look to Jaleel McLaughlin, who I think is a better hybrid option. And then the other guy that I would really look towards in this game is P. Ryan. P. Ryan has the ability to run the ball, get those tough yards, but then he's also done exceptionally well on the short passing game, where he had some tremendous games the last two games where he's really added that extra dynamic to the team. So anyways, that's kind of my general take on what I think we're going to see for the Broncos. Unlike some of my previous weeks where I've been far more pessimistic and certainly less hopeful, I do actually think that this is a game especially with the injuries, that the Broncos will likely win. I still do see this as a 50-50 game because the Texans are not a slouch. They are a much, much improved team, and you have to give credit where credit's due. So with that in mind, I kind of see this as a very similar game to I see this as a similar type of game to the Vikings to the Browns, where the Broncos have the ability to take it over, but we also have the ability to just outright lose.
CJ Stroud's on fire, though.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, he's absolutely, yeah.
Another
He
fantasy.
ain't no Josh Dobbs / DTR / PJ Walker.
Are we saying that the Broncos been playing backup quarterbacks for the last 5 games?
No, not the last 5 games.
I know. I'm exaggerating.
They definitely beat Mahomes and Josh Allen. So that definitely happened.
That counts. That definitely counts.
That counts.
Somebody pick up the phone.
Yeah, who's beeping, dude?
It is not me. It is not me. Normally it's me. It's not.
Yeah, somebody wants somebody's attention, but we digress.
Not me. My phone's
That's right. The Raiders on a bye, so the Raiders. So we'll have any hot takes from the Raiders this weekend.
I can guarantee you the Raiders will not lose.
That's the fact.
I can guarantee you the Raiders will not lose this weekend coming up.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. That's
but for all of your NFL news, be sure to hit the NFL Nation Live show tomorrow on NFL Nation Live, as well as Captain Jack's page, where we go over all of the games. 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, right before and leading into the Thursday night game. That is a promo, man. Baby.
All I got, Seattle.
Oh, man.
Now, DZ, this is the one question I have for you in that comment. I was unaware that drug dealers actually deal in Cialis. How is it that you know these things?
If it's a drug, they'll deal it, baby.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
I don't know from experience.
Right. So I heard. Somebody told me. Little birdie told me. Little birdie told me. Yeah.
Well,
word on the curb is.
Okay.
Word on the curb
give you
is.
a card. You can only call on Thursdays.
Hey, don't need word on the curb. That's one of the good things. One of the good things about having your drugs from TRICARE is I don't get Cialis. I get the good stuff. I get the blue pills, baby.
Blue face, baby.
I just need some cough medicine.
And we made it an hour and 43 minutes before we started getting real edgy. So I think that's a new record.
I'm proud of it.
With that all
we should be proud.
0 days without an incident.
and with that in mind, that chip that we just earned after all those weeks of not having to go down that particular road has now been thrown back in the pile. And we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight on the Wild Wild West podcast. We had a blast. We hope you did too. If you have any questions that you would like us to ask on next week's podcast, hit us up on Twitter, send us a DM, and we'll go from there. And ladies and gentlemen, until next week, where the West Side is the best side. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money.
Blue pills.
Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out.